Well, happy Monday, 8 days before the election, and the left is falling apart right now. They really are terrified. And so, of course, they go back to their safe space, which is to call you Hitler. The Madison Square Garden rally was triumphant, and the slander and defamation that we're getting from liberal media outlets is outrageous. And we're going to show it all to you. Plus, Kill Tony with some jokes that may have rubbed some people the wrong way, but was it really, really that bad? And is the outrage genuine or is it manufactured? We'll break that down. And J.D. Vance, absolutely, and I do mean literally destroys Jake Tapper on his own show, turns Jake Tapper into a babbling mess. And we're here for it because Jake Tapper, he's the worst. That's all coming up right now. We're brought to you by Birch Gold. I'm Larry O'Connor, and you can call me Larry. All right, everybody take a deep breath. I know things are feeling good right now and spirits are high, and that rally yesterday at Madison Square Garden almost felt like a victory lap, but there's no celebrating, right? There is so much work to be done between now and Election Day, 8 days from tomorrow. No, 8 days from today, 1 week from tomorrow. So everyone needs to take a chill pill and stop acting like this is a done deal. Trust me. There's a lot to happen between now and Election Day, and they're going to take our hearts and they're going to try to rip them from our chest cavity and stomp on them while we watch. That's what they want to do, and we're not going to let them. So just stick with us. We got to be in this together, and that's why you're going to stay here every single day as we stream live at Rumble and YouTube and across the Facebook and Meta X platforms. Thank you, Elon. Didn't want to leave you for last. And we appreciate you joining us live every single day at noon or watching us after the fact. So many people are now joining our team by subscribing across all of those platforms. Please continue to do that. It helps elevate our program and keeps it in front of people who have never heard this kind of data, information, and analysis before. Let's get right to it. Madison Square Garden was the scene of one of the most remarkable political events I have ever seen. What's Donald Trump doing in New York, of all places? He can't win New York, but this was not about New York. This was about Manhattan. This was about Gotham. This was about the crossroads of the world right there in New York City. The city's so nice, they named it twice. If you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. And of course, Donald Trump in this triumphant rally, he goes there in Madison Square Garden, right in the center of elite media capital. And how does MSNBC reward him? How does MSNBC treat all of those patriots who filled the most famous arena in the world? Take a look.
But that jamboree happening right now, you see it there on your screen, in that place is particularly chilling because in 1939, more than 20,000 supporters of a different fascist leader, Adolf Hitler, packed the garden for a so-called pro-America rally, a rally where speakers voiced anti-Semitic rhetoric from a stage draped with Nazi banners. When a Jewish protester rushed the stage, the Associated Press reported, quote, instantly, a dozen or more stormtroopers set upon him, knocking him down and beating him as he held his head in his arms. Most of his clothing was torn from his body. Later, he was booked for disorderly conduct. Now, against that backdrop of history, Donald Trump, the man who has threatened to use the military against opponents he calls enemies from within, who has threatened to use the troops to quell what he says are lawless cities, and to use those troops to carry out mass deportations of immigrants, is once again turning Madison Square Garden into a staging ground for extremism.
It's like they're begging someone to take another shot at this guy. It's like this is all assassination prep. It's despicable. It's outrageous. And by the way, every single person, how many were there? 19,000, I think they said, 20,000, maybe more. Every single one of the people at Madison Square Garden should sue Jonathan Capehart by name individually and MSNBC for that defamation and for that slander. Because usually they just say Trump's Hitler, right? But this goes well beyond that. They just said in Madison Square Garden, 1939, it was filled with Nazis, just like today. He's calling all those people Nazis. They're not even putting a pretense up anymore. This is how despicable they are. And by the way, not to get all fact-based with these journalists, because I know, they're the only ones who are allowed to fact check, right? They're the only ones who are allowed to actually bring any sort of truth to a journalistic endeavor. And who am I? I'm just streaming this thing live without a net, but I hate to break it to every single so-called journalist who has made this stupid, asinine comparison between that 1939 rally and this rally at Madison Square Garden, because the only thing they can say is, well, it's in the same place. It's the exact same place. So clearly the comparison is apt. 1939, Nazis, Madison Square Garden, and now Trump in 2024, Madison Square Garden. The building that you're looking at right now, Madison Square Garden, where the Knicks play and the Rangers play and where they have WrestleMania and Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey Circus and lots of concerts, Billy Joel. I've been to Madison Square Garden tens and 20s of times. I'm about to say hundreds of times, but that would be overstating the case. That building right there was built on One Penn Plaza, 33rd Street, between 8th and 9th Avenue, right across from the old post office. That building was built in 1968. So even when they're trying to be bigoted, smarmy, snarky, defamation-ridden liberal blowhards by saying, well, the Nazis were there in 1939. They can't even get that right. Did you know that this is the fourth Madison Square Garden ever built in Manhattan? In fact, the first Madison Square Garden was built in Madison Square, named after James Madison in Lower Manhattan. It's down on 14th Street. And the Madison Square Garden that hosted the Nazis in 1939 was on 8th Avenue and 59th Street, 20 blocks uptown from this Madison Square Garden. It was torn down in 1968 when this arena opened. They can't even get that right, these morons. It literally has nothing in common with the place where the Nazis were. They are just trying to find anything to call you a fascist because they think it's going to work. They think it's going to keep you from voting. They better not be right, by the way. Meanwhile, this morning on MSNBC, Mika Brzezinski was having a full-on, bona fide meltdown over this rally.
I think a lot of people are seeing that rally at Madison Square Garden, seeing all those people. Doesn't mean he's going to win the race. But my point is it's discouraging that so many people would gather and rally to hate speech in America, that it's discouraging and it hurts that people who have family in Puerto Rico, who are Puerto Rican Americans, who are American citizens, are hearing hate like that. It's discouraging, Joe. And I do want to show Michelle Obama and Kalamazoo, but I just think it's important to look at the situation. And it's not just, oh my gosh, about the race. It's, oh my gosh, how did we get here? How did we get here where a stadium of people come to hate? That's a different country, a different time.
You know how you get past that?
How do you get past that?
Work harder, vote, and win. That's how you get past it.
Oh, wow. They're so profound, aren't they? By the way, a great reminder that Joe Scarborough is in his garage down in Florida with a pretend Washington, D.C. backdrop. And there's Mika Brzezinski in another set. I believe actually that's New York with a pretend Washington, D.C. backdrop. Why don't they just do their show out of Washington, D.C.? See, when we're at Hillsdale College in Michigan, we let you know where we are when we're on remote. That being said, did they see the same rally that we saw? How did we get all those people assembled just to hate? See, they're all hate mongers. Every single person in that room is a hate monger. I'm serious. I'm being completely serious about the lawsuits. If you attended that rally, these people using their platform on MSNBC just called you a bigot. And so now, if you post on Facebook that you went to that rally, you will have people who now believe you're a bigot because they saw it on Joe and Mika. And I think you have every right to sue them. That is defamation. They did not do any sort of due diligence to find out if you are a bigot or not. It's insanity. It's absolute insanity. And the insanity continued, by the way, with these morons. Look at I do like that they streamed this thing and they made sure that, that this is a hate fest. So we're going to make sure we run it live on all our stations. They still want the ratings, you see. But while they ran it, they had some chyrons. Look on the bottom. Trump's MSG rally comes 85 years after pro-Nazi rally at famed arena. This arena was built in 1968. They're so stupid. They have no, I'm going to say it over and over again. The 85 years ago pro-Nazi rally was literally in a completely different building that just happened to have the same name. That was 25 blocks uptown. Morons. CNN, Trump leans into hateful rhetoric on immigration MSG rally. MSNBC, Trump re-ups vile rhetoric about migrants at MSG. Trump foregoes prompter to rant about conspiracies. Am I the only one, by the way, that when I see MSG, I think monosodium glutamate and not Madison Square Garden? Am I the only one? I am the only one. You know, when you go to a Chinese restaurant for takeout in New York, they always have no MSG. We don't use monosodium glutamate. All right, I digress. As I usually do. Julie Roginski took to Twitter. If you're voting for Trump after this rally, you support fascism. If you claim it's because of taxes or immigration or whatever issue makes you feel righteous about supporting a fascist, you're like an Italian supporting Mussolini because he made the trains run on time. Boy, it is really simple, isn't it? It is really simple and easy to be on the left. It's like anytime any of my political opponents oppose me, all I got to do is call them Mussolini or Hitler or, you know, whoever. Although it is worth a good history lesson. We've learned ad nauseum now about the 1939 rally. And of course, anybody who does anything at Madison Square Garden, apparently this is the rule now. If you use that place for anything, you are also a Nazi, just like 1939 at Madison Square Garden, even though it was a different building. So the Knicks, of course, are the Nazi team of the NBA. Rangers ditto for the NHL. Oh, is that not how it works? Oh, so it's only if you do a political event at Madison Square Garden. Oh, okay. Well, then I guess that means this guy's a Nazi. Because in 1996, Bill Clinton got renominated as the Democrat nominee for president for re-election at Madison Square Garden. By the way, in 2004, so did George W. Bush. I'm actually shocked they didn't pull out the Nazi thing when Bush was there in 2004. They may have, but people didn't pay attention because, you know, they're irrelevant. That said, a lot of sharp-eyed, keen observers of the Madison Square Garden rally that was really just a gathering of bigoted, hating Nazis, they really did use their keen skills of observation, and they noticed one or two peculiar things. For instance, there were a whole lot of Jews there celebrating the new Adolf Hitler.
I just got back from Donald Trump's rally at Madison Square Garden. I'm a Jewish New York Republican, and I have seen the mainstream media calling this a Nazi rally. And that couldn't be further from the truth. There were so many Jews there, just like myself. There was Israeli flags, and nearly every single speaker talked about their commitment to upholding the relationship between U.S. and Israel. Not to mention all the Latinos for Trump, gays for Trump, and nearly every other group that would have never been allowed in if this was actually a Nazi rally. Kamala Harris could literally bring Adolf Hitler on her stage, and the mainstream media still wouldn't call it a Nazi rally. Their lies are futile. Trump is winning this election in 9 days. Make sure you get out, vote early, and vote for Donald Trump.
There you go. And I know she's Jewish because, I mean, just look at that. She's wearing a Star of David on her necklace, you see? You can't miss it. But she's right. There were a whole lot of Jewish people there. In fact, outside the rally, it looked like the national tour of Fiddler on the Roof broke out. I mean, it's a little pitchy dog, but I do like the guy playing Laser Wolf. That is the To Life L'Chaim scene from the tavern when Tevye negotiates to marry off his oldest daughter to Laser Wolf, the butcher, even though she's actually in love with Model the tailor. But you don't marry in Anatevka for love. You marry because you make a good match. That's why they have a matchmaker. Am I the only one here who saw Fiddler on the Roof? Should I move on? Okay, I will. But the point is, generally speaking, Jewish people wearing their yarmulkes and their prayer shawls and dancing and singing in such a joyful manner, they generally don't go to a Hitler rally. And for that matter, they also don't go to a Democrat rally, because if they went and behaved this way at a Democrat rally, they would actually be beat up, because all the pro-Hamas, pro-terror people who actually make up the Democrats' base now They go full jihad against these guys. That's the sad reality of the situation. Also, if you if you rationalize all of the Jewish people who went to the Hitler rally there to celebrate Nazis and the new Adolf Hitler known as Donald Trump, if you rationalize that by, well, they support the state of Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu, everybody knows that they're colonizing fascists. So that makes sense, right? So, it's a different kind of Hitler. Well, okay, you can go ahead with that rationalization, but you're then going to have to explain how there were so many black people there. In fact, especially the black woman who sang the national anthem. Look at all those racists applauding that black woman. Stupidest racists I've ever seen. Seriously. How do you get 20,000 colorblind racists into one room? It's an absolute wonder of science. By the way, her name is Mary Milben, and she's brilliant. You should look her up. Her videos, I've seen her perform the national anthem at multiple conservative political action conferences, the CPAC conference, and other Trump rallies, and she's incredible. She loves this country, and she loves Donald Trump, and you should give her a follow on social media. Mary Milben with 2 L's. She's brilliant. Listen, what is this all about? What is it really all about? I'll tell you what it's all about. They're desperate. They're falling apart. They're in full panic, and they got nothing left. They've already thrown it all out there. They tried everything. They tried to convict him. They tried to get him taken off the ballot. They tried to throw him behind bars. They motivated people to take shots at him, and they came that close from succeeding. They have tried to vilify you. They've tried to vilify him and vilify his family. They've thrown slime at him about, what was last week's? The groping from 3 decades ago. They've tried everything. And when Kamala Harris signaled last week that she was going to go full Hitler on all of this, that was the last card. And these are cards that they've already played, and they didn't work the first time they played them. And now they're not playing this time around. What's really at play here is they are in full panic mode and completely desperate because they've got nothing left. They've got another week to go. And what's it going to be? Oh, no, he's worse than Hitler. He's Hitler times 10. He's Hitlerissimo. He's Hitlerini. They got nothing. In fact, Jonathan Karl, strangely this morning, political correspondent for Good Morning America and ABC News, he actually sort of gave away the story here with a moment of honesty for his audience and for George Snuffleupagus here.
Look, I was there for about 6 hours yesterday. First thing I've got to say, Madison Square Garden was packed. People waited hours to get in. They sat through hour after hour of this rally. They were fervent in their devotion to all things Trump. Trump has created a movement. There is no doubt. I cannot think of another Republican figure of my lifetime who could have come into a Democratic city like New York and put together anything like that.
That is correct. And that's what this is all about. That's what all the Nazi illusions are, as phony and error-filled as they are, considering they're actually mistaking the building that this took place in. All of the allusions to Nazis and Hitler and racists and fascism and using the military and the latest hoax, the enemy within hoax, which is just like the Very Fine People hoax, which is just like the Russian collusion hoax and every other hoax. They're beating that drum because they got nothing else. And Jonathan Karl points it out. They are seeing something that they have literally never seen before. Maybe the Reagan Revolution. Maybe 1984 Reagan. You know, when Reagan won in 1980, that was huge. It was nothing like 84 when he was running for re-election. And maybe that's the best comparison, because in a way this is running for re-election, because we all know what Trump did his first term. And now he wants a second chance. And He's been so vilified, and those of us who have supported him politically have been so vilified and intimidated to stay in the closet. And you can go ahead and vote for him, but don't be making any noise. Don't be telling me. Don't be telling anybody publicly. Don't be putting a sign out in your yard. Don't be putting a bumper sticker out. Don't actually find yourself in public going to any of these rallies. Those rallies are for deep South Alabama, where people drive up with pickups and shotguns, and that's fine. Those people can do it, but not civilized people like us, not civilized urbane people, God forbid, in Manhattan. That sort of thing doesn't happen here, but this time it does. The stigma attached to supporting Donald Trump publicly has been washed away, and they're terrified of that. And that's why they're just desperately screaming and slinging anything they can. Let me be clear here in terms of where Donald Trump stands as a Republican 1 week before Election Day. Even with the last 3 Republican victories for the White House that we have seen in the last 25 years, excuse me, George Bush in 2000, George Bush in 2004, and Donald Trump in 2016. Those 3 victories, the only 3 White House victories of the last 25 years, each one of those victories didn't feel like a victory until election night, when the actual returns started coming in. 1 week out, it seemed in 2004, neck and neck. In 2000, it seemed like Gore had a slight edge. And in 2016, forget about it, Hillary Clinton was going to blow Donald Trump away. At no time since 1988 has it felt, as a Republican voter, has it felt like the Republican candidate a week out is actually in the driver's seat with a commanding position right where he wants to be on the national poll numbers and in the Electoral College battleground states. That's not only sort of uncomfortable territory for we Republicans, but for these guys, for the Democrats, for the left, for the media, they are freaking out. They have no idea how to handle this. And so they do what they always do. They slander you. And they call you a Nazi, and they call you a fascist, and they call you a racist, and they're going to hope that it works. They're going to try to shame you back into the closet. So we have 2 dangers here. That people actually hear that and believe it, or the other danger is that people are too overconfident, and they're actually thinking, oh, this is it. It's a done deal. No. No, you got to continue to act like you're 10, 20 points behind right now. And not only does your vote matter, but the 10 people that you're going to reach out to and say, to hell with it. I'm proud to be voting for the Republican this time around, because we cannot continue destroying this country with these policies. And I hope you join me. You'll be surprised how many people, those 10 people that you reach out to, how many of them said, you betcha, I was just waiting for someone to say this. I was waiting for someone that I could join, that I could be a part of, that I could be a friend with when we go and vote together. That's what's needed. That's what's needed to be done. And that's why a week after Election Day, not on Election Day, not the day after Election Day, but we can have our party when it's all said and done, when it's all over. And remember, every single time they call Trump a Hitler, they're calling you a Nazi. And the only way you can shut them up, the only way you can stop this, the only way you can actually hurt them is to make them lose again. That's the power you have. That's the power we have. Let's use it. Now, as you know, this election is about a lot. There's a lot at stake, especially with the economy. And sadly, regardless of who is sitting in the White House come January 2025, in many respects, the fuse on this economy has already been lit. 4 years of a conservative presidency is not going to be enough to turn the tide on $35 trillion in national debt. And if the left wins, forget about it. It's throwing gas on a dumpster fire. You don't have much control over the election's outcome, but you can diversify your savings right now by investing in gold from Birch Gold. For millennia, gold has stood firm in the face of greedy governments, economic upheavals, and global strife, and it can help protect you right now in the world we're living in. Birch Gold is going to help you convert an IRA or 401k into an IRA in physical gold, and it doesn't cost you a penny out of pocket. In the past 4 years, the buying power of the U.S. dollar has declined, while the price of gold has increased by 40%. Coincidence? You know it's not a coincidence. Text Larry to 989898. Do that right now. Get a free info kit on gold, and then trust Birch Gold, as I do, to protect your savings. Text Larry to 989898. Do it today. Well, nobody wanted to talk about Donald Trump or J.D. Vance's speeches yesterday at the rally. Nobody wanted to talk about Elon Musk. Nobody wanted to talk about Tucker Carlson. Nobody wanted to talk about Tulsi Gabbard or RFK Jr. or the other big names that were all there speaking on behalf of the Trump campaign. No, all they wanted to do was talk about a comedian, Kill Tony. Perhaps you saw some of his stand-up to sort of warm up the crowd and get people in a good mood and excited for the rally. He was there for a few minutes, but it was enough. It was enough to distract the media and distract, well, everybody who wanted to talk about him and his jokes instead of the actual proceedings from the president on down. Here's a little bit of Kill Tony stand-up.
I don't know about you guys, but I think that Travis Kelce might be the next O.J. Simpson. Feels good in here. The other side's got a lot of crazy endorsements. Swift, Eminem, Leo DiCaprio, Beyonce. Every day the Democratic Party looks more and more like a P. Diddy party. Oh, okay. Okay, that's what you guys want. All right, heck yeah. It's a cool black guy with a thing on his head. What the hell is that, a lampshade? Look at this guy. Oh my goodness. Wow. I'm just kidding. That's one of my buddies. He had a Halloween party last night. We had fun. We carved watermelons together. It was awesome. You guys are, this is a groany little morning crowd, huh? It's tough to follow this audition for the next Commissioner Gordon's over here.
All right. So for those of you who don't know, Kill Tony is a comedian, and he's got a major social media presence. And he is funny, but he's also irreverent. In fact, he's politically incorrect. In fact, he's the kind of comedian that the left loves to cancel and ruin their lives. Just like you in your workplace, if you say a joke at the coffee machine that Mabel over there in HR doesn't approve of, your life is over. And the reason he was there, first of all, because he's very popular with a younger group of voters, especially young men, but also it sends a message. The cancel culture is done. We should be able to laugh at ourselves again and laugh at each other. We're a healthier, happier people when we can. And even if you don't like the jokes, in fact, even if you're offended, okay, be offended. You have the right. I celebrate your right to be offended. But you can't shut people up. You can't ruin their lives. You can't destroy them, and you certainly can't censor them. That's why he was there. And everybody who's saying, oh, my God, I can't believe Trump decided that. First of all, I don't know if Trump made the decision, but I'm glad Team Trump did this. I'm glad, frankly, everybody's talking about the comedian and what he said. Yeah, you're going to see more of what the comedian said, and we'll definitely show you the joke that everyone's going nutso about. But as usual, there's always different lessons to be learned here that goes well beyond just a guy telling jokes that are a little politically incorrect. The lesson is that we want to go back to having a country where we can have comedians tell jokes that are politically incorrect. In fact, as we've chronicled here over the last year on this show, on this channel, there is a growing underground stand-up comedy movement where comedians are once again able to be funny again, even if it means they're offending people. And we love that. We want that. That's okay. In fact, forgive me, but as a white, straight, male, conservative Christian, I have just spent the last 20 years of my life being the butt of every joke, on every sitcom, in every movie, on every Saturday Night Live sketch, in every stand-up routine, on the late night comedy shows. And I'm sorry, it's about time everybody else gets to be laughed at too. Not because I'm angry, not because I'm hurt, not because I'm offended, but because we should all be able to laugh at each other. When we're all laughing at each other and with each other, then we're not screaming at each other. So let's get back to a little more Kill Tony and let's have some fun again, right? Let's make comedy funny again.
It is, though. It's crazy times we're living in. I mean, all these pointless wars. It is unbelievable what's happening right now. It is incredible. Ukraine versus Russia, Israel, it's like bad soccer games. Who even cares? What are we doing? Why is our money involved in these wars? When it comes to Israel and Palestine, we're all thinking the same thing. Settle your stuff already. Best out of 3. Rock, paper, scissors. You know the Palestinians are going to throw rock every time. But you also know the Jews have a hard time throwing that paper. You know what I'm saying? All right, we're having fun now. We're cooking. Hillary Clinton said that this is a Nazi rally here today. Can you believe that? For the most anti-war president of my entire lifetime, and she calls him Hitler. Let me remind you, Hillary, it was your husband who shot innocent people, or as he called them, interns. Yeah, Hillary, I bet you did not see that one coming. By the way, if I commit suicide in 3 weeks, I didn't. I mean, it's just obvious to me who the right candidate is. There's a guy out here dodging bullets. It is unbelievable, right?
All right. So that's a little bit of Kill Tony. And I'm sure for those of you who didn't see the routine, you're probably just like, what's everyone upset about? What's the big deal? What? Because everyone's screaming about Kill Tony's jokes. Well, it's this joke. This is the one. This is the one that got everybody upset. And apparently it is the worst thing that you can possibly say ever in the history of mankind. Let's get to it.
A lot going on. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico. Okay. All right. Okay. We're getting there. Again, normally I don't follow the national anthem, everybody. This isn't exactly a perfect comedy setup. There's some people here. All right. Very good. I like it. I have other policies that I think it should be implemented as well.
All right. So there you go. The Puerto Rico joke, the floating garbage Puerto Rico joke, which, by the way, it should be noted that the joke bombed. It failed. All right. It's not like everybody thought that was the funniest thing. In fact, most people are like, oh, come on, dude, what the hell? Stop. But that's Kill Tony. See, this is the funny thing about Kill Tony. Even when his joke bombs, it's kind of a cringy, awkward moment, and he makes the most of it, which is what you just saw. And so was it appropriate? Was it inappropriate? Should it not have been there? Has it become a distraction for Donald Trump that was unnecessary? No, all of the above is wrong, because the whole point here is to point out the fascist, authoritarian, totalitarian instinct of the left to censor people and silence people. There are some things you shouldn't say. Really? Do tell. What? I mean, is it wrong for me to believe, based on what the First Amendment is supposed to stand for, is it wrong for me to believe that as long as it isn't illegal, you should be able to say whatever the hell you want? You should be able to joke about whatever the hell you want? And anybody who thinks otherwise, you're really in favor of censorship. Call it whatever you want, whether it's content moderation, whether it's standards and practices, whether it's, whatever. That's censorship. It's censorship. You can be offensive. Go ahead. I don't have to listen to you, nor will I. Or I'll boo you if I'm 20,000 strong and you're on stage trying to tell a joke. You see, that's a conservative principle. It's a principle of liberty and freedom and personal responsibility, something the left doesn't quite understand. I'll prove it to you. Really weird thing happened yesterday while this was going on over on Twitch. A Gen Z woman along with her very butch lesbian grandmother, decided to do a live stream while they watched the rally. And for some reason, it's gone viral. Here they are. There's the Gen Z woman and her very butch lesbian grandmother. So anyway, they were doing this Twitch thing. Sorry, what? Oh, seriously? I am so sorry. I honestly, I should do more show prep. That is not some Gen Z woman and her very butch lesbian grandmother. That's Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Congresswoman from New York. And apparently that's Tim Walz, a man, right? Yeah, a man, the governor of Minnesota, and apparently Kamala Harris is running mate. Okay, well, that, I guess, puts this in a different perspective. Anyway, they were doing this Twitch stream that got something like 10,000 views, which is not great. Oh, less than 10,000, 7,000 views. Not great. They played Madden NFL football. They played Madden on a Sunday to attract young male voters who apparently they think on NFL Sunday are watching these two play a video game of NFL football instead of actually watching NFL football. I don't know why they're losing the young male vote over there at the Kamala Harris camp, because this is brilliant. If you're a young man and you love NFL football, you're not watching NFL football on Sunday. You're watching these two play Madden on Twitch. All right, let's see their reaction to the Kill Tony stand-up.
These are terrifying.
Absolutely wild times. It really, really is. And, there's a lot going on. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico. Okay. All right. Okay. We're getting there.
Who is that jackwad? Who is that guy?
Actually, I think that's Tony Hinchcliffe, which is super disappointing. I mean, I don't. He's a comedian. I don't follow
look, Trump,
this
issue
very
with Puerto
closely,
Rico
but...
again. I saw it. This was when he went down after Helene, the horrific hurricane. People there, everybody coming together. We sent helicopters down from Minnesota and personnel. This is how you do this during this. And in the first hours, Trump complaining about the response. Does anybody remember how he responded to Maria in Puerto Rico? It was absolutely horrific. Down there insulting people, throwing it. Look, I know that the folks who are on here today understand this. People in Puerto Rico are citizens. They pay taxes and they serve in the military at almost a higher rate than anybody else.
Yeah. I mean, it's like super upsetting. Obviously, it's super upsetting to me. My family is from Puerto Rico. I'm Puerto Rican. And like, the thing that is so messed up that I wish more people understood is that the things that they do in Puerto Rico are a testing ground for the policies and the horrors that they wish to, and that they do unveil in working class communities across the United States.
This is just painful. We got to stop it there. But imagine the people who tuned into this. What the hell is going on? Actually, I've been hearing the Twitch is going so crazy woke, and they're like being supportive of like pro-Hamas accounts, and they're like deleting and censoring streamers over on Twitch, gamers and stuff who are pro-Israel and stuff like that. But this is the worst, these two. Can I, and not to be rude or anything, because she's a lovely woman and she's a congresswoman, and I'm supposed to, show her some level of respect, but lovely person, don't get me wrong. But as she's getting a little older, and she's like laying on, look at how much makeup she's got on, first of all. That's a lot of makeup for a live stream, right? To stream yourself playing Madden with what's his ass over there. But also, and again, I don't mean to be rude, and I apologize, and please tell me in the comments if I'm stepping out of line. But she's got the little mustache thing going on, right? You know how women of a certain age and of a certain, makeup. Can we blow this up, Kevin? Let's make it bigger for me. She's got the mustache thing going on. I think she's getting a mustache. And listen, she's beautiful, and I have no doubt that she can carry it off. Okay, but I think she's getting a mustache. I'm going to let her. I think as she talks, you can see it a little bit better. It could be bad lighting, and she's just getting a shadow, like right above the. See it? Do you see it? Am I the only one who's going to get in trouble? Is anybody going to join me on this? Are you going to throw me under the bus with Kill Tony? Look at it. It's a mistake. That might be why she had extra makeup on. She didn't have time to, do the exfoliation or whatever it is she does on a regular basis to get rid of it. Because that is an extraordinary amount of makeup for just regular room lighting for a live stream. All right, I could be wrong, and I apologize if that's crossing the line. But I didn't want Kill Tony to be the only one in trouble. I think she's got a mustache. I think she definitely has a mustache. All right, let's move on. Tony, for his part, took to social media and decided to respond to the critics. Here he is, specifically responding to Mustache Face there and lesbian Tim Walz. And Tony Hinchcliffe says, these people have no sense of humor. Wild that a vice presidential candidate would take time out of his busy schedule to analyze a joke, take it out of context to make it seem racist. I love Puerto Rico and vacation there. I make fun of everyone, which is true. We just watched pretty much all of the set. He did make fun of everyone. I'm a comedian, Tim. Might be time to change your tampon. That's a good excuse. I shouldn't say excuse, but it's a good defense for your jokes. Like, listen, I make fun of everyone. That's what I do. I happen to make a joke about Puerto Rico, and I'm in New York, by the way. People in Puerto Rico make jokes about Puerto Rico. That's a thing, and it is, by the way. And so part of a good defense that Kill Tony has put up there is, come on, guys, I'm an equal opportunity offender. You're not outraged that I may have made jokes about Jewish people, that I made jokes about Palestinian people, that I made jokes about black people, that I made, right? That you ignore, but the Puerto Rican thing. All right, so that's a good excuse. You know what else is a good excuse? If somebody's like coming down on Kill Tony because of his joke, and they're like, oh, you can't make that joke about Puerto Rico. A really good excuse is, really? Because it's actually true. Because there's a lot of reports from a lot of media outlets like CNN that did a story about the wall of garbage in Puerto Rico, raising health concerns. Puerto Rico's landfills were already beyond capacity, and now Hurricane Maria cleanup is part of the problem. Or for that matter, the Weather Channel, AccuWeather, an island littered with trash, how Maria highlighted Puerto Rico's poor waste management. In fact, if you really do love Puerto Rico, you'd probably like this problem taken care of. Now, here's Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who's thumping on her chest and feeling all this horrible pain and suffering because a joke was made about Puerto Rico. I'm from Puerto Rico. I have family in Puerto Rico. Okay, well, if you're Puerto Rican descent and you're a congresswoman, what have you done about the garbage problem in your island? What have you actually done? She's done nothing except wear her Puerto Rican ethnicity like it's some sort of shield against any kind of criticism. So the fact is, Tony's jokes, as inappropriate as you may think they were, which I don't care because inappropriate jokes are still jokes, they were actually rooted in truth. They were rooted in facts. And by the way, if you're not Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez with all that makeup on, apparently to cover up a growing mustache problem, if you're just a regular from the neighborhood Puerto Rican who was at the event, you may have actually liked the joke, like these two Puerto Rican women who were at Madison Square Garden for the offensive joke.
We like jokes. We like jokes.
We do. And we understand the importance of a comedian having the freedom to push the envelope, because that's always been what has separated comedians from like everyday folks, right? Mm-hmm. Where they can push the envelope to either make you laugh or make you think or challenge you, right?
Pero, because obviously we're such proud Puerto Ricans, I will say that it is not a little floating pile of trash. This beautiful island filled with beautiful people that love the beautiful island. And it's okay to have different opinions. That's what makes America great, that people could just have different opinions. So you know what? We're not offended. Did we like the joke?
No,
I didn't like the joke. I don't even think the crowd that he bombed that joke.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny. Don't get me wrong.
I think the joke in New York City maybe was not like in the right landing.
Probably right. Probably not the right landing.
I love those two, and they're absolutely right. And by the way, I mean, if I may, this last Tony Award, I used to work in the theater business, and at the Tony Awards where they celebrate Broadway, they just did a lifetime, or they honored the passing of one of the greatest, most genius composers and lyricists of the 20th and 21st century, Stephen Sondheim, who passed away this year. And he's a genius. I mean, absolutely greatest. His very first Broadway musical, he wrote the lyrics to a musical I'm sure you've heard of called West Side Story. And you know the song America, right? Where Puerto Rican students, as Puerto Rican kids in the 50s sing about America. And one group of the kids hate America and they want to go back to Puerto Rico. And the other group, they love America and they don't want to go back to Puerto Rico. The lyrics to that song from the 50s in West Side Story, a landmark musical that is done in high schools all across the country where they just honored Stephen Sondheim. The lyrics are, Puerto Rico, you ugly island, island of tropic diseases, always the hurricanes blowing, always the population growing, and the money owing. I like the island Manhattan, smoke on your pipe and put that in. I know those lyrics. That's what I do. So it's okay to make fun of Puerto Rico if you're Stephen Sondheim and you're writing an award-winning musical. It's also perfectly okay and acceptable and actually laudable to make fun of any ethnic group, including Latinos, if you're doing it at a Kamala Harris rally instead of a Donald Trump rally. Like this homeless man who wandered onto the stage for a rally in Arizona for Kamala Harris. Oh, I'm so sorry. What? I'm making a lot of mistakes today. Is that really? I'm sorry. That is not a homeless man. That's comedian and actor George Lopez. Are you sure he's not also a homeless man? I mean, we haven't seen a lot from George Lopez in the last several years. He could very well be a homeless man as well. George Lopez, who may or may not be living on the streets at a Kamala Harris rally.
Donald Trump said he was going to build a wall. And George Lopez said, you better build it in one day, because if you leave that material out there overnight.
You see, because Mexicans steal building materials when they're left out overnight. That's funny. And we can laugh at it. And no, it's not okay just because he happens to be Mexican American. Anyone should be able to tell that joke. Deal with it. Smoke on your pipe and put that in. All right. That's all I got for that one. Kevin,
Larry,
we've
got some super chats.
Oh, do we? Let's bring out the super chats. I was going to ask you, do you like it when I quote Broadway musical lyrics? Does it really, like, it makes me appeal to the young male voter because they love Broadway musical lyrics too?
You know, I just know there's no way you're going to stop, so I'm indifferent at this point.
That's true. All right, bring me some super chats. I want some super chats for knowing a lyric to West Side Story because I love Stephen Sondheim. William Ramey, $12. Hey, thank you. Thank you, Larry, for your commentary. I love doing this commentary. I hope you're having fun, William, and thank you for that really nice super chat. That is fantastic. I love a dozen, a nice dozen. Thank you, William. And we got, Ball State alum, my buddy. Let's not forget about that little backwater podcast Trump did. You mean Joe Rogan. I know. Amazingly, that was 2.5 days ago, so we don't have time to get it in today's rundown. 36 million views, though, Kevin. Have we gotten 36 million views on one of our episodes yet?
Probably today we will.
Thank you. Thank you, Ball State alum. I love the support. You know I love you, man. That's my friend Jeff. Thanks, buddy. All right, what else we got? Betsy Merrill, $4.99. Love your channel. Always entertaining. Thank you, Betsy. Really? Even the quoting of the Broadway musical lyrics? Okay. All right. See, I think Betsy's on my side on the Broadway musicals. Thank you, Betsy. And Angela, 1 week from tomorrow, 30 to 60 million Christians don't plan to vote. If they voted in 2020, we would not have had Harris, Biden. Vote, 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 fight, fight, fight. You're absolutely right. I do worry about the growing number of churchgoers who claim they're not going to participate. Did I tell you that at a church I went to 2 weeks ago, I wasn't in my hometown, so I was visiting. It's about an hour and a half away from my home for the weekend, and I went to a church that I don't usually go to, and the priest at the homily, priest at a Catholic church. Catholics tend to not get involved in this sort of thing. They try very hard not to. And he spent the entire homily talking about Catholics' responsibility to vote, about opting out is not an option. That's actually the truth. If you take a look at the Catholic Catechism, we are obliged to vote. You do not sit it out. You must vote. That's part of your responsibility. And he said, listen, I've been watching these TV commercials and people are saying this is the lesser of two evils. This Catholic priest is like, it's not even close. There's only one party I can see that's evil, because they are celebrating the idea of killing innocent life. I was blown away. So I hope there's more priests that are giving homilies like that, and we can get an army of voters out there. Thank you. Great observations. Thank you for the super chats. And yeah, 36 million views in 48 hours. Trump on Joe Rogan, 36 million views, 3-hour interview. This is why we're going to start doing long form interviews here on this channel too. And if we do, the first person I'd like to interview is J.D. Vance. So let's get right to it. J.D. Vance, of course, as you know, loves to do the Sunday morning interview shows, although I got to think they're going to stop inviting him on, because he annihilates them, destroys them. In fact, we hear that a lot. Oh, J.D. Vance destroyed this person. Ben Shapiro destroys this person. Michael Knowles destroyed that. Larry O'Connor destroys. This was an actual destruction. Jake Tapper was destroyed by J.D. Vance. And the tipping point for me in this interview, when he did State of the Union on CNN this Sunday morning, had to do with the ferocious, aggressive attitude Jake Tapper brought to this interview, starting to push the typical conspiracy theories that Jake loves to do. And finally, for the first time in like 8 years, J.D. Vance pushed back and exposed Jake Tapper, this guy who loves to try to set himself up as, oh, I'm not partisan, I'm completely unbiased, I'm tough on both sides, and I don't have any skin. This facade that he puts up, this costume that he wears, like Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible, and he rips off the mask. This guy was the tip of the spear, the cheerleader for the Russian collusion hoax. He's the guy who brought that story, the Steele dossier and the prostitutes urinating on a bed in Moscow, that whole thing, knowing that the entire Steele dossier had not been verified, he brought that into the mainstream of the media. He brought it onto CNN 10 days before the election, all through anonymous sourcing. And J.D. Vance finally, for the first time after 8 years, called his ass out on it.
Let's talk about who did he deliver this news to? To Jeffrey Goldberg, a guy who lied the United States into the Iraq War, which led to the deaths of millions of innocent Arabs and thousands of innocent Americans. You don't go to that guy if you don't have a particular ideological motive. I think that's what's going on. If I'm wrong, I'm happy to say that I'm wrong.
I think it's interesting that you think that a magazine writer lied the American people into war.
Well, he encouraged it. He wrote stories that were dishonest.
He wrote a story about the gassing of the Kurds in I forget if it was the Atlantic or the New Yorker, but I'm actually referring to John Kelly talking to the New York Times.
He wrote stories, by the way, where he took what intelligence officials in the American Pentagon bureaucracy said and wrote it as the gospel truth. And this highlights the entire point that I'm making about Trump's foreign policy, is this is a guy who wants to use American troops sparingly. He wants peace through strength. It's why his foreign policy was so successful during his first term. It's all the same people who were wrong about Iraq. They were wrong about the quagmire in Afghanistan. They were wrong about Syria. They were wrong about everything. And now they're coming after Donald Trump.
All right. Now, I'm not going to lie. I just did these clips in the wrong order. So we're going to get back to that clip in just a second. I will. And I'm guessing that Kevin, through his genius post-production editing, will make this a little bit more seamless, because I wanted to get to that clip in a minute. But let's start with the Russian collusion hoax. And now I'll play it for you. I apologize. We'll get back to that clip again in a minute.
Ask yourself a basic question about network integrity. You guys talked about the Russia hoax nonstop.
The FBI was investigating it. The FBI was investigating it. So we recovered them.
And so you took the words of unnamed FBI agents and put them on your network as if they were the gospel truth. You did it again and again. A viewer of your network would have believed that Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin conspired in 2016.
No.
That was totally and preposterously false.
No.
Well, that's
what you just said is false. We covered an FBI investigation. I don't know why you want to talk about the FBI investigation.
You covered it in a way that gave credence to anonymous sources' accusations. You did it yourself. Your network did it, Jake. But again, can we talk about the issues that Americans care most about?
I'm talking about things that Donald Trump has said.
Yes.
If you have an issue with whether or not he's talking about the economy enough, that's between you and your running mate. I'm talking about things he has said this week.
Every single rally that he does, he talks about how he wants to unleash American energy so we can lower the cost of groceries. He talks about the fact that housing has become unaffordable. He talks about the wide open border, Jake. Kamala Harris and her allies, it's interesting. Kamala Harris and her media allies, and I would put CNN in this category. You guys,
They wouldn't.
You guys seem to care.
I'll tell you that they wouldn't.
Well, they should watch your network more because you guys seem to care more about Donald Trump's past than the future of the American people. We're running this campaign on making the American dream.
I'm specifically asking about how Donald Trump is going to be president in the future should he win. And then we're being told
he's going to pursue economic policies that lower the cost of groceries and make life more affordable again. He talks about it every single day on the campaign trail, and so do I. What you're talking about is an anonymously sourced story, or one guy
nothing anonymously sourced,
or who one guy who is a disgruntled employee.
I told you
where five other people pushed back against him and said that what he said was dishonest. So why don't we talk about the policy that's affecting American citizens and not what Donald Trump allegedly said, according to one guy who's pissed off because he got fired by Donald Trump?
All right. Now, that's brilliant and beautiful, and I love it. And you can tell Jake Tapper's reaction that he's back on his heels and he's defensive. He does this thing where his voice starts to raise, and you're going to see more of it because this is just the tip of the iceberg as this conversation goes on. And you can see that Jake Tapper is not interested in interviewing J.D. Vance. He's interested in debating J.D. Vance. He's engaged in a back and forth here where he's trying to win an argument, which last I checked is not what an interviewer at a cable news network is supposed to do. I thought they were supposed to ask questions and elicit answers from a political candidate so the viewers can make a decision as to whether they want to support that candidate or not. But that ship has sailed years ago, hasn't it? I want to go back to something that J.D. Vance said that is critically important. And I've been writing about and commenting on the Russian collusion hoax since early, I would say March or April of 2017, when this thing first started to bubble up. All right. And I've tracked it and I've followed it, and I've had major players investigating it on my radio show on a regular basis all that time. So I feel really plugged in on it. And it is true that Jake Tapper and CNN, they won awards for this. 10 days before the election, they broke the story that the FBI had asked Donald Trump in a briefing, had briefed Donald Trump about the existence of the Steele dossier. Now, for weeks during the campaign and after Election Day leading up to Inauguration Day, it was an open rumor and secret that there was this dossier. We learn now, we learned a year after the fact that dossier was paid for by Hillary Clinton and her campaign. They paid the MI6 agent, Michael Steele, in London, the retired MI6 agent, to put together this thing and then peddle it to news agencies and eventually peddle it to the FBI. And the FBI then opened a counterintelligence investigation into Donald Trump about it. But the whole thing originated from Hillary Clinton. Don't believe me? Go look at the FEC records that fined the Hillary Clinton campaign $100,000 for using their campaign funds to create this Oppo research. They settled. They were guilty of campaign finance violations in the way they paid for the Steele dossier. So they've admitted it at this point. The whole thing was a work of fiction, and it never would have made it to the mainstream journalistic corridors were it not for this man, Jake Tapper, and his team at CNN. And you just heard Jake Tapper. Really important that we focus on this. Because Jake Tapper just said, we reported on the fact that the FBI was investigating it. That's all. That's news. It's news that the FBI was investigating this. Are you telling me that's not news? This has always been his defense, and he tried it here too. J.D. Vance is like, somebody at the FBI leaks this anonymously to you, and you run with it, and you put it out there so that the American people think that Donald Trump is colluding with Vladimir Putin. And Jake Tapper's defense has always been this disingenuous BS answer. Well, hey, are you telling me it's not news that the FBI is investigating Donald Trump for this thing? We weren't saying it was real, right? We were just telling you that it was being investigated. And this is what I want to tell you. Because I've been covering Washington, D.C., living in Washington, D.C. now for over 12 years. And I cover all these things. I cover these scandals. I cover the Benghazi scandal, cover this scandal, scandal after scandal after scandal. And there's a part of all of these stories that never gets reported on. And it's probably the most important part of these scandals. Jake Tapper just admitted. He conceded the fact that anonymous sources within the Justice Department and within the government leaked to him the fact that the FBI was investigating Donald Trump for the Russian collusion hoax. So he ran with the story and he put it out there. And they always say exactly what this anonymous source tells them. And if they're lucky, they get another anonymous source to back it up and validate it. Sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not. But the fact that the source tells them this story, that's enough for them to go with. And then the next thing you know, you're Woodward and Bernstein, you're taking down a president, and they're making a movie about you, and they cast Robert Redford to play Jake Tapper. Or in this case, I'm sure he'd like Brad Pitt to play him. That's their dream. That's what all these DC journalists want. And there's one major part of the story that they always ignore, that they never report on. Frankly, I think it's the most important part of the story. It's staring at you right in the face, and that is the anonymous source. This is never part of the story. Why would this anonymous source leak this information? What was their motive? Everyone has a motive to do this. Everybody has a motive. So if somebody at the FBI or Justice Department, calls up Jake Tapper and they meet in a garage somewhere near Union Station next to a homeless encampment, and the anonymous source, while smoking a cigarette in a trench coat, looking over his shoulder, says, hey, we're investigating Trump for this whole Steele dossier thing. There were prostitutes in a bed in Moscow, or whatever it is they're doing. When that anonymous source gives that information to Jake Tapper, that anonymous source's motives are part of the story. But it never shows up, does it? It never shows up in the story. And J.D. Vance just exposed it. You get an anonymous source, you run with it, you publish it, you put it out there, you make the American people believe this thing. And you walk away saying, hey, it was newsworthy. That's all that matters. You know what else is newsworthy? The fact that there are people within the government who are willing to break the law, to leak information to you anonymously because they want to take down Donald Trump. Maybe that's a story too. Maybe you should pursue that story. I think that's a pretty big story, especially when they're leaking you only part of the information and they're leaking to you a fake story. It's not fake that he was being investigated, but what they were investigating was fake. But no, we had to spend $100 million on Robert Mueller and a private a special prosecutor to determine that it was fake. And that goes away, and nobody ever asked that question. Jake, who leaked this to you? Burn your source, Jake, because it was a bad story, Jake. But he won't do that because he's not interested in the truth, and he's not interested in delivering news to you. He's interested in helping his team and hurting the other team. That's what he's interested in. And then this conversation got even more escalated because Jake Tapper just kept going in and kept going in and kept going in. So, of course, he raised the question of apparently, we're told, Donald Trump saying horrible things about people in the military, not wanting to pay for a deceased soldier's funeral and saying, even though the family of that soldier is just fine with it, saying that Trump wished he had generals like Hitler, right? That all came from Jeffrey Goldberg at The Atlantic. And so J.D. Vance is like, okay, can we look at the sources here? Because it's funny, whenever there's a story that makes Donald Trump look bad with regard to the military, it always sources back to the same journalists, like Jeffrey Goldberg at The Atlantic. And these guys always seem to have stories that promote the next war that Americans are going to get killed in and that we're going to spend billions of dollars through military contractors for. Isn't that curious? And so J.D. Vance, God bless him, Marine Corps veteran who served in the Iraq War in combat, he went there. And Jake Tapper has no answers.
But let's talk about who did he deliver this news to? To Jeffrey Goldberg, a guy who lied the United States into the Iraq War, which led to the deaths of millions of innocent Arabs and thousands of innocent Americans. You don't go to that guy if you don't have a particular ideological motive. I think that's what's going on. If I'm wrong, I'm happy to say that I'm wrong.
I think it's interesting that you think that a magazine writer lied the American people into war.
Well, he encouraged it. He wrote stories that were dishonest.
He wrote a story about the gassing of the Kurds in I forget if it was the Atlantic or the New Yorker, but I'm actually referring to John Kelly talking to the New York Times.
He wrote stories, by the way, where he took what intelligence officials in the American Pentagon bureaucracy said and wrote it as the gospel truth. And this highlights the entire point that I'm making about Trump's foreign policy, is this is a guy who wants to use American troops sparingly. He wants peace through strength. It's why his foreign policy was so successful during his first term. It's all the same people who were wrong about Iraq. They were wrong about the quagmire in Afghanistan. They were wrong about Syria. They were wrong about everything. And now they're coming after Donald Trump.
Yeah, and I think that it's a fair point to make. And J.D. Vance, God bless him, did not let up. And he kept pressing this issue until Jake Tapper got really defensive and his voice really started to raise. And he started to really engage in this almost emotional debate with J.D. Vance. And it did not end well for Mr. Tapper. Take a look.
All those 10 people, including the former vice president, Mike Pence, all of these people have this horribly damaged worldview, and they're all just going after Donald Trump because they want to send people into war. That's really your argument?
Absolutely.
It's not like these are conservative.
Absolutely, that's my
These
argument.
are not conservative
Jake,
Republicans. These aren't conservative Republicans who are concerned about Donald Trump. They're not. That's not right.
All of these people, Jake, they came into office thinking that they could control Donald Trump. That when he said he wanted peace in the
Mike
world,
Pence thought he could control Donald Trump.
Yes, he did. And when he found out, when he found out that he couldn't, they all turned on Donald Trump.
Yeah, and let me just say real fast, because I just find this to be, this guy right here. Look at that guy. Look at that guy. Oh, he's just a journalist. He's just an impartial, unbiased, completely down the middle, neutral journalist. Oh, with the finger pointing too. Yeah, I don't want you to think that this guy has a stake in the game, that in some way he's taken sides or anything. No. That's just an unbiased, he's the last good reporter amongst all of us with the finger pointing. And it's a great, and I love that he trivializes J.D. Vance's position. Oh, so all these people lie about Donald Trump because they just want to send people into war. It's not about sending people into war, okay? It's about the billions and billions and billions of dollars and the power that these individuals get by sitting on the boards of these companies, by getting the stipends of these companies, by being able to perpetuate these things. It's not about just sending people into war, which is bad enough. It's about the money that's made and the power that is accumulated around that issue. There are politicians in Washington, D.C., who, if you took the element of war and foreign enemies out of their arsenal of political rhetoric, they'd have nothing left. They would never win re-election because it's all they've got. And so they use it to their advantage. And one other thing, Jake Tapper found it really hilarious to think that Mike Pence thought that he could control Donald Trump. Let me just say something. And honestly, I know a lot of people don't like Mike Pence. I actually do like Mike Pence. I think that he's gone astray and his TDS has gotten the best of him. But fine, say what you will about Mike Pence. He's not out there like Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger and all these other guys who were saying, yeah, Kamala's my gal. No, he said, listen, I'm not going to vote for Donald Trump, but that's me. Okay. And I'm not going to tell anybody else otherwise. That's fine. It doesn't matter. I know Mike Pence. I've interviewed him many times. Mike Pence, just like Steve Bannon, just like Reince Priebus, just like General John Kelly, just like Jared Kushner, by the way, the president's own son-in-law, all of those people, when the Trump presidency began, they all thought they could control Donald Trump. I know it. I know it for a fact. I heard it from most of those guys. That's what everyone in D.C. was talking about. Oh, my gosh, who's really going to run this White House? Because Donald Trump can't run this White House. And the Reince Priebus people were like, well, Reince is the establishment guy, and he's coming from the RNC, and he's Speaker Paul Ryan's best friend, so he'll be able to control things. And Steve Bannon was telling anybody in town that would listen to him, is like, yeah, I'm the MAGA man. I got him to win. Yeah, I've got his ear. I'm going to be able to control. Mike Pence was like, yeah, I'm the moderating voice in this administration. I'm going to be. They all thought they could control Donald Trump. It was one of the biggest problems with the first year and a half of this White House. And the fact that Jake Tapper his whole job is to cover politics in Washington, D.C., and it's never occurred to him that these guys all thought they could control Donald Trump, and then Donald Trump said, yeah, you got another thing coming. Stop trying to control me. You're out. The only person he couldn't fire was Mike Pence until the term was up. 100%. I find it laughable that Jake Tapper finds it laughable. But there's another aspect of this whole J.D. Vance, Jake Tapper thing, which really needs to be fleshed out here. And thank you to Jack Posobiec for putting this montage together. Jake Tapper claims that it's a lie that he spent time on his network pushing the Russian collusion hoax. Well, as they say, let's go to the videotape.
The report is now here. It has dropped, and it might not have produced everything of what some Republicans hoped for. It is, regardless, devastating to the FBI, and to a degree, it does exonerate Donald Trump. Why this is interesting and significant is that President Trump and others are trying to say that the FBI is corrupt, and they had this Steele dossier, which they say has been discredited, which is not entirely true, and that it's all because of the Steele dossier, and this whole investigation is based on nonsense. In this op-ed from the founders of Fusion GPS, that is that the dossier was taken so seriously because it corroborated reports the Bureau had received from other sources, including one inside the Trump camp.
There's obviously a big move to undermine the Mueller investigation, and we see it all the time with all
the witch hunt.
The witch hunt.
The hoax.
Big hoax. At the end of the day, we were attacked. The American people were attacked. And that can't happen again. And the idea that there are members of Congress or whoever trying to stop an investigation from going forward into what happened so we can make sure it doesn't happen again, it is
weird. It's weird.
It's not just weird, it's unpatriotic.
And we're back with breaking news in our politics lead. CNN is now learning that Christopher Steele, the British spy who authored the Trump-Russia dossier, alerted the FBI in July 2016 because he was so concerned then candidate Donald Trump may have been vulnerable to blackmail. What's your reaction to that?
So we've got a couple of examples now of genuine friends of the United States, members of the Five Eyes Alliance, an Australian ambassador and a retiree from Britain's MI6, having concerns about the well-being of American democracy. And they followed their conscience and made their concerns known to the appropriate organs of the United States government. That's about as far from a political motivation as you can get.
Devin Nunes, in his public comments and some of the other comments we've seen, seems to be that the officials in the FBI who were seeking a FISA warrant against Carter Page relied too much on a political document, the Christopher Steele dossier.
No, I don't know that the dossier played in this very much at all. However, some of what was in the dossier was corroborated in our intelligence community assessment, which was derived from other sources of information in which we had high confidence.
Donald Trump is still calling this witch hunt. Okay.
Yeah. They've caught a few witches, by the way.
They have.
There have been a few witch indictments.
Giuliani, great lawyer, he has said that the whole investigation at this point has become absurd. It's absurd. Is it absurd?
No. We broke the story of the existence of the dossier that President Trump had been briefed, and we did not mention any of the contents of the dossier. CNN. But there's the FBI director talking about prostitutes peeing on each other in Moscow. It was almost exactly 2 years ago that CNN reported that President Trump had been briefed on the intelligence community's assessment of Russian interference in the 2016 election, including the existence of the Steele dossier. And despite the president's fierce denial, CNN's chief national security correspondent Jim Sciutto reports that the special counsel's team has already proven some of the claims in that dossier are true. Joining me now is the top Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee, Congressman Adam Schiff of California. Congressman Adam Schiff of California. Congressman Adam Schiff. 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 Have Democrats found any evidence of collusion?
Yes, we have.
You want the truth about Russia and possible collusion. I just would like the truth and facts to be respected again in this country.
Yeah, he's just about truth and facts. And just so we can be sure, he just said to J.D. Vance just yesterday that it's not true that he pushed the Russian collusion story on CNN, because Jake's all about the truth and facts. And, well, there you just saw 3+ minutes of Jake Tapper over the course of the last, from 2017 through 2019, doing everything but pushing the Russian collusion story. No. He just had Adam Schiff on every day so that Adam Schiff could push the Russian collusion story. Remember, Jake Tapper is the last remaining good journalist amongst all of us. Don't forget, it's Jake Tapper's world of journalism and media, and we're just lucky enough to be a little part of it. God bless you, Jake Tapper. Never change. You're the best. That is it for today. We appreciate you being a part of our little extravaganza here. We love doing it for you, and we love that you continue to come back every single day. I hope you had fun. It's true. We didn't do it. Real fast. Kevin, you're a big Joe Rogan guy. Did you enjoy the Joe Rogan interview? It was remarkable. Wasn't it 3 hours? 3 hours, 36 million views.
I loved it. It was a great time.
It was pretty good. And with, oh, hey, Elliot, thank you so much. Redeem this $5 for a frosty cold beverage after the show. Just wondering if you're a fan of IPLs. IPLs. I knew what an IPA is. What's this is my frosty cold beverage of choice that I'm chilling with today is Coke Zero. What's an IPL? Did he mean IPA? Or am I being an idiot right now? Kevin, do you know the
world may never know.
Sure, I'm going to have to Google that shit. I'm sorry, Google that. What's an IPL? He must have meant IPAs. Meredith, an Indian Pale Lager instead of an Indian Pale Ale. What's wrong with me? I guess it's hoppy. I do like lagers better than ales. So I'm going to have to check it out. I'll take your $5 and I will try to get an Indian Pale Lager. I don't know if they will have any in Hillsdale, Michigan, where I am until Thursday, but I will do my best. Also, how about that Command Skins game, huh? That Hail Mary at the end of the Command Skins. I was at the Lions game in Detroit, by the way, 52-14. What a game. Lots of offense. Lions looking unstoppable. The Washington Command Skins also looking unstoppable. I don't know who to root for, Kevin. I've never been in this position because both the teams that I love suck, but not this year. This is exciting. Who's your favorite football team, Kevin?
I've been a Skins fan since the day I was born, I think.
Do you like Command Skins? Do you like that? I'm trying to make that stick. Are you with me?
I was always a fan of changing the name to Redskin Potatoes. Although I think I've heard whispers of another name change coming their way.
Really? Does it suck?
I think there's a significant chance they could go back to the Redskins.
Really? That would be incredible. See, I assume what they're going to do is bring back the logo, the Indian head logo, because at the stadium now they have a whole exhibit on the origin of that logo, and it's a beautiful logo. And the W is awful. They got to get rid of that logo. I think they're bringing back the Indian face logo, but they're going to keep the name Commanders. But if they actually came back to Redskins, that would be phenomenal. I like Command Skins. All right, listen, if you guys like Command Skins, let me know in the comments if you're still watching us at this point. If not, either way, I really appreciate you being part of our show today. Thank you so much for the super chats, and we will see you next time. My name is Larry O'Connor. You can call me Larry.